Before this video starts, what's your favorite movie or TV show? If you said Invincible from Amazon Prime or The Croods from DreamWorks, that rhymes with rug, you could clearly know that most of the movies you just said are made from a company that's quite well known like Sony Pictures Animation and Pixar. However, there are some things out there, like some movies or shows, that aren't exactly made by your typical Disney or Columbia Pictures. I'm talking about this thing called independent animation, or just indie animation for short. Indie animation is just, in short, animated content that isn't made from big companies like, once again, Disney or Pixar. There's also things like indie games, especially indie horror games like Baldi's Basics, Cuphead, or even Hello Neighbor. But for this video, I'm mainly just going to talk about indie animation, and the fact that indie animation, after all these years, is finally winning in the big 2025. Because Flow winning an Oscar for Best Animated Feature, I think it's safe to say that indie animation is in the right direction after many years. Because remember now, Flow is an indie film with a $4 million budget, no voice actors at all, and most importantly, it was fully made in Blender. Yeah, you heard me right. I'm not even kidding with that. The free software named after a kitchen item helped made an indie film that later won an Oscar. Some people might not really understand how much this is really important for indie animation, because again, an indie film with a $4 million budget made on Blender with no actors won an Oscar, which can really motivate other indie creators to really put passion into their indie project. Now, I would also love to especially talk about some indie shows, and how those are also another example of how indie animation is finally starting to win. Mainly Glitch, one of the ones that impacted indie animation a lot, like with the Amazing Digital Circus, which has almost 400 million views, which is almost surpassing Markiplier's Meow video. Something to really think about, not gonna lie. Not to mention with Murder Drones, with their pilot being at almost 100 million views, and the Gaslight District, their most recent indie show, being over 10 million views in the span of 2 weeks. Mainly by the time I type this script out. There's also other indie shows like Lackadaisy or Spooky Month that also makes pretty decent shows, and this is very good. These indie shows on YouTube getting these kinds of attention and recognition really strengthen the success of the independent industry. It can definitely encourage someone to work on their indie projects to possibly make it big someday. I would also like to mention that Lackadaisy actually has way more better animation than an officially licensed Disney film, that being Wish, which I think is really fucking funny to compare both of them. I also want to add something else, that the Amazing Digital Circus got out on Netflix. That's right, this isn't even a shits and giggles moment. Netflix put an indie show on their platform. Also, while I'm editing this, Murder Drones also got added to Prime Video, which is really proving my point now. As a matter of fact, Japan is really starting to love the Amazing Digital Circus. So much so that a manga is being created. There's like some shop of a huge Pomni statue. And most importantly, there's even an Amazing Digital Circus cafe. You know how crazy this is for indie animation? The Amazing Digital Circus and Murder Drones also got some nominations at some award shows. Not like with Flow and the Oscars, but still award shows that still have decent recognition. For example, the Amazing Digital Circus, according to IMDb, was nominated for 2 awards at the Annie Awards for Best Character Animation in TV/Media, an outstanding achievement for character animation in a television/media production, both for Kevin Temer, who's actually a junior animator at Blue Sky Studios, just like to mention that. And Murder Drones got 3 nominations for a Webby Award for Best Animated Video category, and here's the thing, they actually won 2. More VivziePop and her success with her shows on Prime, which is really helping indie animation get into the public eye, and making people appreciate how some indie shows put more effort and emotion into their work than something from a big name company. Now look, if you're someone watching this video who has an indie project that you don't believe you will get recognized, that's because you're not attempting it. Just like Anton Ego said from Ratatouille, not everyone can become a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere. You probably have a great talent that you're not at least trying to let people know about. Even if your project maybe won't be the next Digital Circus or Murder Drones, you at least believe in yourself. Hell, I don't even know you, and I even believe in you can make something great. And if you're just a normal viewer watching this not thinking of making an indie show, support other indie creators, indie animation, indie games. Try your best to support someone's work that isn't affiliated with the mouse, or, you know, like the kid on the moon. There can probably be a work of art out there that no one knows yet. Support indie animation, believe you can create something if your mind can actually try. Anyways, that's about it for me today. Support indie animation. Puggy Blitz Whitey is signing off right now, and I'll see you guys in the next video.